What's going on, everybody? How we doing today? Hey, I figured I'd take this time to try to explain some things to you guys because yesterday we witnessed President Donald Trump commute the sentence of Larry Hoover. Who is Larry Hoover? Why is this such an issue? And what is the difference between pardon and a commute? All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and break things down to you guys, man. But first, before we get into any of that, I want you to like, subscribe, comment, and share. Yeah, the crazy eyes coming right at you. Like, subscribe, comment, and share. And let's go ahead and get into the video, y'all. Check it out.
Yes.
All right, now to understand all of this, to understand what's going on, you gotta kind of have to go back in time. You gotta have to get a little history lesson from me. All right, so just bear with me. In the 1960s, was a very turbulent time in American history. We had a lot of protests, we had a lot of racial strife, we had a lot of political unrest, all of that going on. Basically, the whole 1960s, for the majority of it, I should say. There also, to add on top of that, there was a very unpopular Vietnam War going on that had the country just pretty much ripped in half. During that time period, there was an organization that rose to serve those who were underrepresented, who were being abused, who were being mistreated and treated wrong in Black community. And that organization is the Black Panther Party. The Black Panther Party strove to make Black people self-reliant, give them a sense of dignity, independence, self-worth. Something that really hadn't been seen in the Black community at all in this country up until around that time. Showing that there's a certain respect in Black empowerment and Black power. Um, but unfortunately, that organization dissolved and was disbanded, broken apart. And when that organization was kind of ripped apart at the seams, it kind of left the power. Not it kind of. It did leave a power vacuum in the urban centers of America. Go all the way out to Los Angeles. It gave rise to super organizations like the Crips, founded by Stanley Tookie Williams and Raymond Washington. And then to counter those guys, you had the Bloods, who was run by guys like King Baba Louie, OG Puddin, you know, larger than life names like that, the Pyru Boys. And then you take it back across the country into Chicago. Chicago was no different. In Chicago, you had on one side, you had the Vice Lords started by a guy named Pepolo, the Latin Kings. You also had the Vice Lords who had a rising star amongst their group, a guy named Willie Lloyd. The Four Corner Hustlers, started by Walter Wheat. Mickey Cobras, and they weren't the Mickey Cobras until after he died, but they were the Egyptian Cobras, run by a guy named Mickey Coswell. And then to counter that, on the other side, you had David Barksdale with his Black Disciples, and you had Larry Hoover with the Supreme Gangsters. Now, the Supreme Gangsters, uh, they ended up making an alliance with David Barksdale and became the Black Gangster Disciple Nation. This is the late '60s, and the Black Gangster Disciple Nation, they kind of had a stronghold on the south side of Chicago, and that stronghold branched out throughout the Midwest and parts of uh, southern United States. And I believe today they are represented in about 38 states across the country. Now, the Black Gangster Disciple Nation, they didn't stay the Black Gangster Disciple Nation forever due to internal strife and different politics, but they held that alliance and that allegiance for a little more than 20 years. But the two people that ran it, Larry Hoover and David Barksdale, they were considered the kings. Now, David Barksdale, he was shot in the early 70s, I believe, like 70, 71, and died a couple years later. But when he passed away, the reins was handed over to Larry Hoover. Now, Larry Hoover was the alleged, undisputed King of the Hill. Now, he held that title, King of the Hill, pretty much the top of the food chain for the Gangster Disciples, up until about the real, like around like 2000, 2001, when he completely denounced that gang, or 2002, something like that. But he completely denounced his affiliation with that gang, didn't want anything to do with it. He even tried to, in the early 90s, in the mid 90s, he tried to rebrand the organization from the Gangster Disciples to Growth and Development. Now, some people on the street were with it, and some people were not. But it didn't matter. These were his attempts and his efforts to try to change the imagery behind all the havoc and terrorism that he caused in the communities. Now, after he did that with the growth and development, he tried to take the path of a Stanley Tookie Williams, kind of teaching kids or trying to teach kids how to redirect their um, conflict resolution skills, from being violent to having conversations, and even trying to direct guys to be more involved in positive community changes. Unfortunately for Stanley Tookie Williams, he was already on death row, and those efforts did not work for him. He was he was um, he ended up being killed on death row in the state of California through lethal injection. But on the other side, um, Mr. Larry Hoover, he was serving 6 life sentence in a federal facility, ADX, Florence, Colorado, which is the supermax in this country, and his 6 life sentences were commuted. Now, what is commuted? Having your sentence commuted does not mean that your sentence was pardoned. Being pardoned is having your rights, privileges, and everything restored to you, and pretty much the slate wiped clean as if the crime had never happened. And it's like offering you an apology for going through this and giving everything back, right? Now, having a pardon that can only be given by the executive branch member of government, which would be a governor or president. Now, having your sentence commuted, a commutation is not a pardon. It is basically saying if you were sentenced to 50 years and you serve 23 years of the 50-year sentence, I'm going to commute your sentence and say time served. Doesn't necessarily mean that all of your rights, privileges, and everything is restored back to you. It just means that we have decided that what you have been in prison for, you have served enough time for it. So that's the difference between having a pardon and having your sentence commuted. Now, the only person that can offer a commutation of sentencing, having your sentence commuted, is an executive branch member, whether it be the governor or the president. So that's the difference between that. And what is being explained now in terms of what's next for Mr. Larry Hoover going forward is that that man will still be incarcerated because he has sentence obligations with the state of Illinois, the Department of Corrections. And the Department of Corrections has petitioned um, the Bureau of Prisons, which is the federal prison system, the Bureau of Prisons, to continue to finish out his sentencing in federal custody, because while in state custody, they cannot completely guarantee his safety. He's a safety risk. And in Illinois, now you have the two armies, the folk nation, which is all the guys that run under the 6 point star, whether it be the gangster disciples, black disciples, um, maniac Latin disciples, and so on and so forth. And then you got the people nation of Vice Lords, Black Keystone, El Rukin, Mickey Cobra, Four Corner Hustlers, so on and so forth. Those factions are huge as armies in the Illinois Department of Corrections, and um, even though he may be protected by quote unquote his own, it would still cause a disturbance in the prison system, just him being in there, because he's one of the he's one of the he's like the he's the king. You know what I'm saying? Like he's the founder. And even though he would denounce it, it would still be a risk having him in. He's the OG. He's the start. He's the start of it. You know what I'm saying? Like it would just cause a disturbance. So the Illinois Department of Corrections is asking the Bureau of Prisons to um, retain him in their custody to finish out the rest of his sentencing with them. But um, how do I feel about President Donald Trump commuting the sentence of Larry Hoover? I really don't have much of an opinion about it. It doesn't really matter because I knew that he had the state sentencing obligations behind it. That's why, when Kanye West and Kim Kardashian was going on this big um, promo tour of you know of Free Larry Hoover, I didn't really see the point of it. How do I feel about him starting an organization that has wreaked havoc in the communities of different communities across the country? I think it's terrible. I think it's a shame that a man with such charisma and leadership qualities, used those talents to inflict evil on people. And I think that he may, in his age now, he may already have understanding of 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 how he used his gifts in the wrong direction, in the wrong way. But when you make a decision in life, you always have to deal with the consequences of that decision. Even if you change your belief, your opinion, your attitude about that as you get older. Everyone is presented with different choices and everyone is presented with different options. And if you choose an option, you make a choice, you have to stand by that choice. You have to live with the results of the options that you selected. And I think that he may be dealing with a lot of buyer's remorse, which understandably so. As a 74-year-old, 75-year-old man, you're not the same gangbanger you was when you was 22, 23. I get it. But, you know, um, if I had made different choices, in life, I'd be a doctor. I wouldn't be a cop. I'd be an architect. I wouldn't have gone to the military. I would have, and I'd be reaping the benefits, good or bad, of those decisions. Just like today, I'm reaping the benefits, good and bad, of the career choices and things that I've made in my life. So I don't really have. I'm not going to give you a. I'm not going to give you a. He shouldn't be pardoned. He shouldn't be. He shouldn't have had a sentence commuted or anything like that, because to me it doesn't matter. Even if you were to set him free, if you were to allow him to walk the streets of Chicago, they wouldn't listen to him. My time in the gang intelligence with law enforcement states that the gangs of today are not the same gangs of when I was growing up. And when I was growing up, they would have been more prone to listen to him because of who he was, reputation wise. But even after a while, they probably wouldn't have considered him much, because people's attitude back in my day was, "I'm you, the old dude. I'm that new guy. Now I'm gonna listen to what you have to say in terms of guidance and direction. But other than that, I'm gonna do my own thing." Today, these kids are completely about doing their own thing, and it's not just about um, People Nation, Folk Nation, Blood, Crip. There's a lot of hybrid gangs out there, a lot of small cliques. They use acronyms just to kind of give association to themselves. MOB, FBG, so on and so forth. And that's kind of the newest and latest trend of the organizations today. They may fall back onto a bigger gang, because when they go to prison, those are who are running the institutions. But on the street, nah, that's it. But other than that, I definitely appreciate y'all locking in with me today. I want you to like, subscribe, comment, and share. That's like, subscribe, comment, and share to this video, man. Let's get it out to the good people. And I'll see y'all next time. All right? Peace.